Hello, everyone. Welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for another edition. Actually, it's a special edition of YBMcast. Today we have our GAC conference preview, and we're in the South, and we're here with Fort Zumwalt West head coach Eric Gough. Coach, thanks for dropping in.
Always a pleasure. You call up and say you want to talk some baseball, and the answer is always going to be yes. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk a little baseball with you, and I always enjoy it.
You know, it's funny. I'm going to say this because it's really kind of that way. It's amazing. I really, because when I first started doing this, I thought, well, I'll call the guys and see and whatnot. And I had Coach Perkins I'd known for a while.
Sure, of course.
And it was there and and whatnot. But, it's a little bit, are these guys, it's who's this hack,
Sure.
Right? And everything. But, it's been really great because across the board, the coaches from the GAC and coaches outside of it have been really, really great to talk to, and I appreciate it because I think this is fun. Oh
yeah, and heck, I was down at the high school coaches conference this weekend, and that's just a great weekend of camaraderie amongst coaches all over the state. And you just got a bunch of guys that love high school baseball, and when you find someone like yourself who wants to talk high school baseball, it's pretty easy for a coach to open up and will be willing to bend an ear, that's for sure.
Well, as well as I do, football, basketball, they get the pub, right?
Sure, absolutely.
And, okay, fine, dandy. But Missouri, and over the past, since I've been here, I'm a transplant, but my son grew up playing baseball here, both my kids right here. Watching baseball in Missouri, it's really good.
It's good baseball. I mean, particularly in St. Charles County.
Yes.
Of course, you go across the river, you got some really good baseball schools there as well. I'm not going to take anything away from anybody, in St. Louis County or any of that. But St. Charles County has always had really good baseball for the last 30, 40 years. And, I put the GAC conference up against any conference in the state. And I know, over in Kansas City, there's a gauntlet conference as well that's very similar to GAC South with Liberty North, Liberty, Blue Springs South, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Staley's in there too, where they're very similar to the GAC and the GAC South in particular. But it's pretty hard to go a year without finding at least one GAC school in the Final Four, and it's not uncommon to find multiple GAC schools in the Final Fours in different classes. It has quite a history of being a really strong conference, and sure expect that to continue in the coming years.
It looks like it. It looks like it will. And that's what I thought when I looked at this. I said, we have to talk about these things because there is so much good baseball at these levels from youth, 13, 14, on up into high school. There's so much good baseball. There's no reason not to, put a little spotlight on it. We've done, a lot of player spotlights and whatnot, and we've got a couple coming up that you'll really like. But these are big-time athletes going to Power 5 schools, and not everybody's Power 5. And there is some really very good athletes going to some really good D2 schools and really good JUCOs from this area and from the state. So I just think it's great. And watching this over the last couple of years, last year, let's get into this, 2022, you guys finished 30-9. Yep. Another solid first place in the GAC. You went down to the eventual third place team in the state at Francis Howell in a very good baseball game.
Oh, absolutely.
So, you were the District 4 runners-up. So you got 9 returning seniors.
Yep.
But you have some big losses, don't you?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Because you had some guys that were just with Whistler, Stein. I know I miss
Bates, Ulm, real big contributors last year for sure.
And every year, though, you seem to be able to retool.
Well, we've been very fortunate. We've had really good athletes, good baseball players, and on top of that, kids that, one, have a real good baseball acumen, high baseball IQ guys, and then also they're guys that are willing to go to work hard, and they're great teammates.
Yeah.
And when you get kids to buy into that culture, if you will, of being a great teammate first, then the guys that put their stats to the side and really are more concerned about the team's success, especially when they are your best players on the team, then you can get a group of 16, 17, 18-year-old kids to rally together and be a band of brothers, and it's pretty cool what you can get done with them.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that because, as we were looking, as I was doing the power rankings and whatnot, and I've got Fort Zumwalt West at number 2. One of the reasons for that is from last year, you've still got quite a few guys come back, the offense there and whatnot, Kenton Deverman. But the pitching is the one thing that I looked at here, and we're going to start off with pitching that I thought was, me personally, look at these things, it's going to have to come up because, of course, Kenton Deverman, he's really good.
He's really good. And Daniel Whistler, without a doubt, is a top Power 5 kind of arm, and he's good. We expect him to have a ton of success at Mizzou. And there's no doubt he was our guy last year.
Right.
And so I'll say this without taking a lick away from what Daniel did, but just how good Kenton was at times last year. Kenton was just as good, if not a little better, from Daniel in a few weeks.
Yeah.
And that's a tip of the cap to how good Kenton is and kind of what we expect from how good he can be coming up this season. We think, there's no doubt that everybody is looking at us and they're expecting him to be our number 1 guy, and we're expecting that to be the case as well. And we know that every time he gets the ball, he's going to give us a chance to win.
And you always wish for these kids. The biggest thing that I hope for is they stay healthy.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's the biggest thing because when you're coming into this, that's always the X factor is injuries.
Sure, absolutely.
No, you never know.
Yeah.
But you got a couple kids come back from like Carson Clark, who, he's doesn't seem overpowering or anything, but he gets guys out, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's been real effective. He's got a good curveball, good velocity for a high school guy, and he's going to compete to be that number 2 guy, maybe a closer. Another guy, Colin Griner, is going to be a senior that we're going to kind of lean on, that is kind of in the mix to get some innings. Another senior is going to factor in somewhere, I'm sure, is Aiden Copeland. And then, we got the younger guys. That's what's always fun is, looking at the younger guys that sometimes the seniors don't really look down below them and know that some of those guys are really going to be huge contributors. But we have a JV team that won 21 games last year, and they had a couple of guys that they took the ball and it was see you later, I'll be back in 7 innings. So, JV team doesn't have a lot of success without some good pitching. And, there's two guys that were kind of the workhorses there. Tanner Sullivan is the righty, and then Jeter Roop's a lefty who's kind of got that lefty run and can really keep guys off balance with the changeup and working some off-speed stuff. So we think those guys are going to jump right in and be contributors. And I'd say right now we have a clear number 1 in Kenny because he was one of our 2 main guys last year, and we have lots of options for who's going to be that number 2 guy. And the great thing about what we have at Zumwalt West is we know that those guys are going to compete for it. They're going to compete hard for it, and however it shakes out, they're going to love each other and they're going to have each other's backs. That if we see a certain guy as a closer and a certain guy as a number 2, then I think we got a bunch of guys that are going to accept their roles and just go out and have the attitude of whenever you give me the ball, coach, I'm taking it and you're not taking it out of my hands. So we're looking forward to letting that all work itself out and watching our guys compete this spring.
I love that because when you've got a lot of talent and you're pushing that competitive level, that just creates a positive thing overall. If kids are willing to compete and go work for their job, I love that thought process. Yep. And last year, that was interesting how you said that. Here's the ball, I'll see you in 7 innings.
Yep.
I saw that from Kenton Deverman last year.
Oh, for sure.
Whistler, the same way. Your guys got on the mound and they went and threw strikes, competed. They kept their pitch counts down.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Yeah.
And I love that aggressive attitude, being aggressive in the strike zone.
Yep.
if a guy gets a hit, he gets a hit. But here it is, my best and yours. Is that something that these kids just show up with?
Well, there's no doubt. Some kids just kind of are wired to be more strike throwers than others. But that's something we preach in our program is you can't defend walks.
Right.
And if you let guys get on base by giving them free passes, you're killing everybody behind you. And not only that, your defense never plays as well. Because if you got a guy who's not filling up the zone, the defense gets a little bit back on its heels, and guys just aren't quite as sharp. So we really think those things go hand in hand, and we preach pounding the strike zone. That Kenton he legit is a 68% strike thrower.
Wow.
And so when you do that, you're just not going to have many walks, and guys know when they come to the plate, they better be swinging. And so our defense plays sharp, and we're not giving away anything free. And when you get a few guys like that kind of at the top of your rotation, and they see how successful that is and how really to attack and challenge and compete, then guys on the bench who are next in line, they get the ball and they want to go do the same thing. So it kind of feeds into itself, which is a pretty cool thing.
I think the defense too, and that's something we did I think a couple of games last year, and I remarked, and I think the guys, Kevin Mulder, we talked about this. Defensively, you guys were really strong. I think it was one of the better defensive teams in the GAC that I saw. Didn't make a lot of mistakes. You didn't hurt yourself. So when they were putting the ball in play, you guys were making plays. Didn't make a lot of mistakes. Do you see that? You lost Stein over there at second base.
Yep.
You had a sophomore at shortstop.
Yeah.
And Alagna, right?
Yeah, Nick Alagna, yep.
Yep. Alagna?
Alagna, yeah.
Alagna. Sorry, Nick. Want to make sure we get the names right. Did you expect that from him last year as a sophomore?
You know what? When we started our open gyms about this time last year, he really wasn't on my radar to compete for that. Mm-hmm. But we were on his radar, and as tryouts started and got going, we called him up right away. And I told the guys, I said, he's here quite simply because he might have the best hands in the program. He has dynamite hands. His actions are really good at shortstop. He has great footwork. He has great fundamentals. He works through the ball so well. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, he plays with an extreme amount of confidence. Yeah. That's not arrogant or cocky. He just believes he's going to go out and get the job done. And as a sophomore, he came up and worked with us, and immediately was a leader in the middle infield as a 5'0", 120 pounds middle infielder. He didn't care. He was there to compete and go make plays, and started out the year offensively on fire and just locked himself into that shortstop role and played great defense all year. So
yeah, because he hit over 300 for you, Coach.
Yeah, he had a great. He started off. I think the first 10 games he was hitting 600. He just everything he hit was finding holes, and he was squaring balls up and doing a great job. And then, of course, the kid's not going to hit 600 all season, so I tapered off a little bit. But he had a remarkable sophomore season, and we'll expect big things out of him defensively for sure, and even bigger things to contribute in offensively for us as well. So
that I think that's impressive when you see a young man like that as a sophomore really put himself in that position in a program like yours. I mean, that's not easy to do. It just isn't.
No,
it really. People, because it's hard enough, because it's not like you don't have a lot of kids.
Oh yeah, we got plenty of guys coming out, and lots of talented guys, that's for sure.
So I think defense is going to be interesting. His fielding percentage is great. Mikey Ludwig.
Yep.
I know you're going to have center field. You got to replace Whistler up there.
Yep.
I got to ask that question: is Robertson going behind the plate?
Well, I'll tell you about March. We'll let you know.
Okay.
All right. That's enough, we got some guys that are going to compete. We got a couple seniors. Well, we got 3 seniors that are going to compete to be behind the plate, and Brendan Shane, Colin Griner, Cooper Robertson. Obviously, Cooper played third base almost every day for us last year. And then a big question for us is a guy like Cooper and Colin. They're both pitchers, and they're going to be in the mix to get innings on the mound too. So we're going to have to balance that workload as far as catching and pitching and figure out how the pieces fit in, and it might change from week to week. But the good problem that we have is we got a bunch of guys who are going to compete wherever they are. So it's a good piece of the puzzle for us. And like what I tell our guys right off the bat, beginning of the year is we don't want the 9 best players. That's not what we're looking for at Zumwalt West. We want the best 9. And, just to focus on, even if you're the best individual player, if you don't fit into what we are doing and be a part of our best 9, then you're not going to be in the lineup. And so that kind of evolves and shapes itself differently throughout the course of the season. And will Cooper be behind the plate? I'm sure at some point he will.
Yeah.
Will Colin be behind the plate? I'm sure at some point he will. Will Brendan get some work behind the plate? I'm sure at some point he will. So we got a lot of guys that can compete and do a really good job for us. And we'll see how that shakes out halfway through the season as we gear up for a district run.
I love it. All right. Offensively, I mean, you got some stuff to replace with Bates, Smith, Stein. 41 runs.
Sure.
I mean, from Connor Stein. 3 home runs from Carter Smith.
Yep. 16
RBIs from Ulm and 29. I mean, the run production that you had from those guys. Yeah. I'm looking at, there is your son who got he was DH'd a lot last year.
Correct.
Had a solid year, 270, 21 RBIs. Mikey Ludwig's coming back at 290. Cooper Robertson, 293. 20 runs, 21 RBIs. Brendan Shane, I think that's the young man. With 26 plate appearances, he hit 500.
Right, yeah. He's a guy that just he squared balls up and hit a lot of line drives. Mm-hmm. And anything that wasn't too hard hit, he just found holes. So he kind of had that. It seems like every year in a high school season, you have that guy who finds a few more holes, and you have that guy who hits into a little bit more of hard luck. Right. And that just kind of happens. Like I think of in his junior year, Connor Stein was a kid that, he hit in the 9-hole for us for our Final Four team. And his average wasn't that great. And you would look at his average and think, he's just a regular 9-hitter. But he hit into more loud outs than any kid I've ever seen. And sometimes that just happens from year to year. So So you lean on a few of those balls that find holes to bump the average a little bit. And, but Brendan, he's a kid that just takes great at bats and not necessarily a big power guy, but he doesn't miss very often. He just hits line drives, and when you do that consistently, you're going to find a lot of holes. So that's the kind of guy he is, and I think he's going to be a producer for us this year as well.
I like that because when you see 26 plate appearances, I mean, he's making the most of those.
Absolutely, yeah.
When you see
always
that,
ready to
when
go.
you see those numbers, that means he's prepared mentally to go and hit.
Yep.
And your team was there. They're playing. They're in the middle of that. Hey, when your name's called, it's hard to come off the bench like that, isn't it, Coach?
Oh, absolutely. And he was a part of a couple big rallies that, hey, we need a DH, Brendan, let's go. And he hops right up, has a great at bat. And I can think of one in particular, Francis Howell. We went, I think we were chasing one or in a tie ball game over at Howell, and we needed a little spark. And Brendan came up and just hit a ball that found a hole, and we re-entered a runner, Mikey, to get back in there, and then we came up with a big hit to push an extra run across, and so when you're going to win 30 ball games, you're going to need a little production from those key critical at bats, and Brendan definitely did that. So
that's awesome, and that's what I see. And do you see some of those kids? You got some kids that you talked about from the JV squad that won. Who do you see maybe making an impact or getting some opportunities there, Coach? I understand everybody's competing, but Who do you see? What are some names that we can talk about here that might be on your radar there?
Well, we got question marks for us. Like you said, who's going to be the catcher?
Yeah.
What does that do with our third baseman position? Obviously, we got second base and first base open, so I'll just kind of go around the infield. We got a couple guys at first base. Cody, my son being one of them. We're kind of expecting him to be a big producer and build on his season last year. Logan Kowick's a guy who kind of struggled offensively a little bit, but he's a guy that has just loads of potential, and hope we can get him swinging the bat hot right off the bat. a JV guy that didn't produce a lot last year because of injury, but has a load of talent. Landon Young is going to compete for a middle infield job. Peyton Krause is another senior who's going to be right in the mix in the middle infield. And then outfield-wise, we got Jeter Roop, got a lot of time with in the outfield, and then Nolan Whiteside. You probably remember the Whiteside name. He was. Yeah. We've had a couple really good older brothers of his. And Nolan's going to be a junior that had a real good productive season for the JV last year. So the good thing about those names that I throw out, and I'm sure I probably missed a couple guys that are going to compete and be in the mix.
Sure.
But we know those guys are going to be really solid defensively. Kind of whoever we throw out in the outfield, we know those guys can go hunt them up, and they got good speed, they got good technique, and we feel like, man, if you hit a fly ball, good luck at Zumwalt West. It better be hit well, because we got guys that can track them down. So, and then defensively on the infield, we just got a bunch of guys with good hands that are going to work hard, that are really going to take care of catching and throwing the baseball. I know it sounds silly, but that's something we really pride ourselves on, is that we're going to work our butts off, quite simply, just to play catch better than you do. Because we think if we play catch better than you do, the score's going to take care of itself.
I think that's, as I want to talk here, and then I want to ask you one last question. But that's what's interesting to me. And listening to you talk, we talk about building a program. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things I like with Kevin Mulder. We've talked about Fort Zumwalt West, and he said there's schools, he said, that have, the high school teams, he said, but then there's also those schools that are programs. Mm-hmm. And talking to you, and there's quite a few coaches actually in GAC, when you have an understanding of what you want to accomplish, what you want to build through your program, how do you keep that message from the freshmen to the JV? It's got to be the coaches there, doesn't it?
Well, one of the big things is I got to throw a ton of credit out to our coaching staff. And I go back to, I started in 2010. And for about 12 years, we had the exact same staff. Brian Spees was the freshman coach and just did a great job getting kids ready for the JV. Matt Sissom has been the JV coach for all those years and is a phenomenal baseball guy. And then Ryan Edding was with me for most of those years and finally got out to do a little more coaching with softball. But then Keith DeShirley jumped right in. And obviously he's got a load of experience, and he has more state championships than I do. So just the coaching staff that we have has just been such a valuable resource. Then on top of that, you got a guy like Chris Robertson, who pitched at Mizzou, has that collegiate experience. And then Ryan Franklin, who was a 2013 All-State kid who's come back and helped us coach. Wow. So to have those guys in the program to build that stability and all of us have the same common goal, which is get kids ready for the varsity level and compete at the highest level and then move on. So that continuity in our coaching staff, with us all being on the same page, has been just invaluable to me as a head coach. And I'm so grateful for all those guys and all the knowledge they bring. And I'm just fortunate to kind of be the leader of the pack. But the other thing we do is we try to send that message throughout the program. It's become a staple in our program, the Monday morning meeting. Kids come in at 6:30 in the morning on Monday morning, and we'll meet for about 40 minutes, and we'll just talk about, hey, here's our team goals, here's our standards, how did we do last week, what did we do good, what did we do bad. We recognize the success and the failure of the freshman team, the success, the failure of the JV team. We talk about what they're doing well, what they're not. And then we talk about what are the things that we need to do to win, whether it is, our strike percentage needs to go up, or we need to limit errors, or we need to do a better job controlling the running game, or we need to do a better job competing and winning the 90s. We talk about the importance of winning the 90s through aggressive base running, through taking great at-bats, talking about quality at-bats, finding ways to get on base, grinding out at-bats, those kinds. So we send that message to our kids by meeting every Monday morning. And what I love is that meeting's catered towards the varsity guys. I talk to the varsity guys in particular, but the freshman and JV guys are there. And then I'll go to a JV game or a freshman game, and they'll be saying the same things that we're talking about on Monday morning. So they buy into that. And the other piece of that is we've been very blessed to have some great athletes and some great baseball players. Yeah. And we've had a level of success in recent years. And so that kind of builds upon itself as well, where there's an expectation of winning with also the knowledge of I'm going to do it the way those guys did it.
Right.
And when that happens, it just kind of keeps building into itself. And you just, my job as the head coach is just try to get the kids to buy in and figure out how the pieces fit best from year to year and let the kids go play.
I love that, Coach. That's good stuff, man.
No, I enjoy it.
The GAC South. I'm just going to say good luck.
Yeah,
I mean, you got a great team, but
it's loaded.
Good luck.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel sorry for the hitters.
Yeah, no doubt.
I really do. I mean, if you're we know what Francis Howell has as far as offensively. I mean, you got some guys coming back. I think you're going to be fine offensively. I think Timberland, it's a big question mark. Troy, I really like Justin Rogers.
Absolutely.
I think he's still working towards a little bit there. Francis Howell North, it's one of the ones Francis Howell's coming back up into the South this year. Coach Donahue had a good season, above 500 last year. He's got some guys coming back, some pieces. Who am I missing?
Like you said them all. House Central.
Yeah. How did I miss that one?
They got a couple arms.
Yeah, just a couple.
Yeah.
And they got some, and I like Coach Beckman, what he's doing.
Yeah.
He's a similar, what you're talking about, building that program. And I think he's really working hard at that. And that's what I love from Coach Perkins to you, to Coach Beckman, to Coach Rogers, to Coach Donahue who's been there. I know I'm missing golly, my brain.
And then Andy Zaire.
Yep. Yes. Coach Zaire, all you guys, it's just good, and it's program building. And I love the thought process here, year in, year out. I love coming and doing the GAC Game of the Week because last year we saw some really good baseball games. Oh,
yeah, it's a high level of baseball, no doubt. And, this year is going to be another one of those years. When you look at those teams, I mean, if you say, hey, Timberland beat Hal, or Hal beat Timberland, or Hal Central beat Zumwalt West, or vice versa, whatever, you're going to look at it and go, yeah, I can see how that happened. I mean, it's just there's not going to be a score that is going to be too surprising because it's going to be just a dogfight every time you go out. So you got to be sharp, you got to be on your game, and you got to maybe catch a few breaks here and there. And so, if you look at like last year, I went into the season and said, fellas, this is a year 7-3. May get a share of the conference, 8-2 possibly. We had that year last year. We caught a couple breaks and played really clean baseball, finished 9-1, and then just couldn't get that third win against a really good team in the district title game. So
right.
it's hard to do.
Yes, it is.
And so I think this year is going to be no different. Where if someone runs through this gauntlet undefeated, tip your cap. I mean, heck, even 9-1 or. It could be a year where 8-2 or even 7-3 gets a share of the title because it's just so dang competitive. And one play here or there, as is going to change a ball game. And so it's going to be that way every week.
A bloop hit, something like that. It's going, critical. Coach, I'm looking forward to it. I believe we got you on the schedule going out because Troy's got the new turf out there.
Oh, can't wait to get out there and play on it.
Yeah, right?
Yep.
And so I think we got you locked in with Troy over there at the new field. I'm looking forward to that. That'll be a lot of fun out there for that one. So
yeah, always appreciate you coming out and covering.
Absolutely. Everybody, Fort Zumwalt head coach Eric Gough. As always, Coach, really appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you so much for all you do for GAC baseball and high school kids and just people in general. Appreciate it.
I'm ready for some baseball.
Amen. Let's go. Thanks again.
Everybody, thanks for tuning in. We do appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please subscribe if it's your first time. If you like what we're doing, hit that like button, comment. Let us know what you think about what we talked about here today, and share it out with your friends. We do appreciate it. And everybody, have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers. What do pitchers need to do, Coach?
Fill it up.
Fill it up. There you go. I like that one. I always say throw strikes. Fill it up. And hitters,
grind it out. That's what
we
say.
All right. I love that. Grind it out. We're getting new stuff here. I dig that one.
There you go.
We had a light tower power one earlier today.
Oh, there we go. That works too.
So I love the grind it out. That was a good one. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. That's a good one.